All right, guys. So we got to talk a little bit about this. So we discussed how, Bari Weiss has taken over CBS. Well, the Ellisons bought Paramount, which has CBS as part of it. They're, Zionist billionaire hacks. And they brought in Bari Weiss to run CBS. And the reason they did that is because they want CBS to become a both sides factory where you do false equivalence all day long, right? So they want to go softer on MAGA. And they also want to protect Israel no matter what. So you bring in Bari, who literally has a track record of trying to get, pro-Palestine professors fired in college. You bring in somebody like her, and she will effectively censor whatever you want her to censor and steer the network in the direction you want her to steer it. And remember, Trump would not have allowed the Ellisons to get Paramount unless there were some sort of guarantees, like, oh yeah, we're going to keep them off your ass, right? And so here we are, and now the mask was all ripped off of it. Why? Because 60 Minutes did a segment talking about CENTORED, the concentration camp in El Salvador that Trump sent innocent people to, and Bari Weiss intervened to kill the whole story. And she lied, and oh yeah, we'll play it in the future, and we're just trying to get, we need to get somebody from the administration on the record, and that's the issue here. And meanwhile, they asked, and the administration didn't want to go on the record, okay? So you're effectively giving the White House a kill switch for any story. If they just say, oh, we don't want to comment on that, you're saying, well, then we have to kill it. That is insane. She's waging a war on facts and truth and journalism, and there's no other reasonable interpretation of that. And now we know everybody at CBS despises her. They see what she's doing. She's like an official government censor. Okay? Well, guess what, y'all? How about this for an update? Bari Weiss praised El Salvador's dictator before spiking the 60 Minutes story on his torture prison. Shout out to Andrew Perez. Shout out to Zateo. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. Now, by the way, of course, the massive irony is she created an independent outlet. I use that term loosely. It's not independent. Called the Free Press. The Free Press. Change it to the Unfree Press. Because you're the censored press. Because, you are the worst on this front. There's nothing free about it. She created this whole University of Austin thing, which is just like a scam, basically. And she said, oh, we're all about free speech, and that's the whole point of this. Meanwhile, she takes over CBS, and she then goes on to say, well, I'm trying to control the bounds of the discourse. So, I want to exclude Nick Fuentes, exclude Hassan Piker, exclude the fringes. So, well, which is it? You can't do I'm the free speech person, but also, I'm going to exclude people from the conversation and keep the boundaries where I want them. That contradicts itself. Look, at the end of the day, you have to conclude she's just an idiot. Bari is an idiot, and she failed up her entire life. That's what it is, okay? But now, I'm about to hit you guys with some real shit here, man. I'm about to hit you guys with some real shit. So before I even do this, let me just say, subscribe to the channel, click that bell icon so you get a notification every time a video drops. Hook a brother up with some support on Patreon, because we're taking a risk here. I am now going to play for you the segment that was banned and censored. And the reason I'm able to do this is because these jackasses are so incompetent. It turns out the really evil people are usually also incompetent because these jackasses forgot to cancel this 60 Minute special from running in Canada. They did in the US, they forgot to do it in Canada. So naturally, when everybody in Canada saw this 60 Minutes thing run, they immediately recorded it and posted it online. So what I want to do is show this to a bigger audience, right? A bunch of people posted it on Twitter and elsewhere, but I want to go ahead and post this on YouTube. I'm going to take precautions, of course. What I'm going to do is we're going to mirror the video, and we'll mess with the audio a little bit, and we'll use whatever tricks we have to make it so that, it doesn't get pulled down, and we don't get censored, and the channel doesn't get hit with a strike or whatever other nonsense they might do and come after me. But this is important. Everybody needs to see it. And this is the segment that was censored and banned by Bari Weiss to protect the fascist Trump regime. Let's watch.
You may recall earlier this year when the Trump administration deported hundreds of Venezuelan men to El Salvador, a country most had no connection to. The White House claimed the men were terrorists, part of a violent gang, and invoked a centuries-old wartime power, saying it allowed them to deport some men immediately without due process, an unusual strategy that sparked an ongoing legal battle. Tonight, you'll hear from some of those men. They describe torture, sexual and physical abuse inside CENTORED, one of El Salvador's harshest prisons, where they say they endured 4 months of hell.
Now, by the way, that's why they didn't want to run it. That's why I guarantee you got a pissed off call from Stephen Miller or Donald Trump to the Ellison saying, you better get CBS in line. You better call Bari Weiss and fix this, because last thing you want if you're the Trump regime is to humanize these innocent people who were tortured and raped at the concentration camp you sent them to illegally.
It began as soon as the planes landed. The deportees thought they were headed back to Venezuela, but then saw hundreds of Salvadoran police waiting for them on the tarmac. Shackled, they were paraded in front of cameras, pushed onto buses, and delivered to CENSORED, El Salvador's notorious maximum security prison.
En el momento en que llegamos, el director del SECOT.
When we got there, the SECOT director was talking to us.
Y lo principal.
The first thing he told us was that we would never see the light of day or night again.
El día ni la de la noche.
He said, "Welcome to hell. I'll make sure you never leave."
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
We met Luis Munoz Pinto in Colombia. He was a college student in repressive Venezuela and hoped to seek asylum in the United States. In 2024, he says he waited in Mexico until his scheduled appointment with U.S. Customs and Border Protection in California. During that interview,
they just looked at me and told me I was a danger to society.
You have no criminal record?
I never even got a traffic ticket.
Nevertheless, he was detained by
God.
Customs. He says he spent 6 months locked up in the U.S., waiting for a decision on his asylum case when he was deported.
So he literally followed the rules perfectly. Let me repeat that. He followed the rules perfectly, has no criminal record, not even a parking ticket. He gets locked up for 6 months illegally because one of Trump's regime thugs took a look at him and said, "You're brown, you're a potential menace to society, so we're not gonna allow you in." Oh my goodness, bro. This is worse than I thought.
One of 252 Venezuelans sent to CENSORED between March and April. Inside, he says, their hands and feet were tied. Forced to their knees, their heads were shaved.
There was blood everywhere, screams, people crying, people who couldn't take it and were urinating and vomiting on themselves. When you get there, you already know you're in hell. You don't need anyone else to tell you.
He says the guards began savagely beating them with their fists and batons. Tell me about what they did to you personally.
4 guards grabbed me, and they beat me until I bled, to the point of agony. They knocked our faces against the wall. That was when they broke one of my teeth.
CENSORED.
Oh my God, bro. This was all brought to you by MAGA. This was all brought to you by Trump. This was all brought to you by Marco Rubio, who cut the deal with Nayib Bukele. By the way, this is against U.S. law. This is against international law. This is clear torture. People got to go to prison for this, bro. I'm sorry. People got to go to prison. People in this thug regime got to go down for this. You can't treat people like this. You're supposed to have rights. Rights are viewed as off the table. Not like the government can't just willy-nilly take them away. But here they are, and they're doing exactly that.
The Terrorism Confinement Center was built in 2022 as a key part of Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele's sweeping anti-gang crackdown. The massive prison, designed to hold 40,000 inmates, and its harsh reputation are a point of pride for Bukele, who regularly allows social media influencers to tour it.
As you can see, we're literally in the middle of the desert.
Guards show off cramped cells where metal bunks are stacked 4 high. There are no mattresses or sheets. Inmates said they had no access to the outdoors and no contact with relatives. International observers warned CENSORED was violating the UN standard for minimum treatment of prisoners. And 2 years ago, during the Biden administration, the U.S. State Department cited torture and life-threatening prison conditions in its report on El Salvador. But this year, during a meeting with President Bukele at the White House, President Trump expressed admiration for El Salvador's prison system.
They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games.
In March, the U.S. struck a deal to pay El Salvador $4.7 million to house Venezuelan deportees at CENSORED.
These are heinous monsters, rapists, murderers, kidnappers, sexual assaulters, predators who have no right to be in this country, and they must be held accountable.
Okay, all right. I think they're about to get to it in a second, but I had read 288 people were sent to CENSORED, to this concentration camp, and the low number I read was 70% had no criminal record. And I read numbers as high as like 93% or 95% had no criminal record whatsoever. And by the way, I almost don't even like talking about that, because even if you have a criminal record, you shouldn't get tortured and raped as a result of it. So I don't even like having this part of the conversation, but it just crystallizes for people exactly what's going on here and who the real criminals are.
The U.S. government said, These people are the worst of the worst.
These people are migrants. And the sad reality is that the US government tried to make an example out of them. They sent them to a place where they were likely to be tortured, to send migrants across Latin America the message that they should not come to the United States.
Juan Papier is a deputy director at the nonprofit Human Rights Watch. In an 81-page report released in November, the organization concluded there was systematic torture and other abuses at CENSORED, and that nearly half of the Venezuelans the U.S. sent there had no criminal history. Only 8 of the men had been convicted of a violent or potentially violent offense.
8 of the men out of 288, 3.1%, have been convicted of a violent or potentially violent offense.
How do you know they weren't gang members?
We cross-reference federal databases in all 50 states in the United States, and also obtain criminal records in Venezuela and in the countries where these people live. And the information we obtained in the United States is based on data provided by ICE.
So ICE's own records said...
ICE's own records say that only 3% of them had been sentenced for a violent or potentially violent crime.
60 Minutes reviewed the available ICE data. It confirms the findings of Human Rights Watch. It shows 70 men had pending criminal charges in the U.S., which could include immigration violations. We don't know because the Department of Homeland Security has never released a complete list of the names or criminal histories of the men it sent to CENSORED. Rapid deportations have been a key part of the Trump administration's immigration overhaul. The administration considers anyone who crosses the border illegally to be a criminal. Illegal crossings are now at a historic low. But some immigration attorneys say the administration has used flawed criteria to justify deportations.
Yo tengo algunos tatuajes, ninguno hace referencia.
I have some tattoos. None of them have anything to do with any criminal group.
Me dijeron,
I explained to them, saying that I didn't belong to any gang, to which the agent responded, but you are Venezuelan.
Okay, is unbelievable. I mean, how many times have we talked about it? They sent somebody with a mom and dad tattoo to CENSORED because they said the mom and dad tattoo means you're in a gang. They sent somebody with an autism awareness tattoo there because they said that means you're in a gang. They're making it up, and they know they're making it up, and they don't care.
60 Minutes reviewed this document agents used to assess Venezuelans. A person with 8 points was designated as a Tren de Aragua gang member and deportable. Tattoos that immigration officers suspected of being gang-related earned 4 points. But criminologists who study gangs say tattoos are not a reliable way to identify Venezuelan gang members because, unlike some Central American gangs such as MS-13, Tren de Aragua does not use tattoos to signal membership.
Bro, that is so wild. So it's not even like MS-13 where they do use that to determine who's in the gang. They don't even do that for this gang. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God.
Venezuelan national William Lozada Sanchez was also deported to CENSORED. He told us the guards there also accused Venezuelans with tattoos of being gang members. He detailed months of abuse and being forced into stress positions.
So you had to be on your knees for 24 hours?
Yes, because they put a guard there to watch us so that we wouldn't move.
And what would happen if you couldn't make it?
They'd take us to the island.
What's the island?
The island is a little room where there's no light, no ventilation, nothing. It's a cell for punishment where you can't see your hand in front of your face. After they locked us in, they came to beat us every half hour, and they pounded on the door with their sticks to traumatize us while we were in there.
The torture was never ending.
Interminables.
They would take you there and beat you for hours and leave you locked in there for days.
Some of the deportees described being sexually assaulted by the guards.
They were hitting your private parts?
Sí.
With a baton?
No, they tugged at them with their hands.
And they did that to multiple people?
A su mayoría.
To most of us.
And by the way, let me just say, the New York Times, I believe it was, did a big report on this. And for a lot of people, it went even further than that. Some of the people were forced to suck dick. They're forced to suck dick. The conditions were so bad and so brutal, you had prisoners cutting their hands and then using the blood to write on like desperate messages on their white sheets. That's what happened. Again, you wonder, I wonder why the regime didn't want people to see this. Bari Weiss thinks she's doing journalism by withholding this, by the way. Bari Weiss thinks, she's the moral person. She's on the right side of history by withholding these facts. That's like in Abu Ghraib or Guantanamo Bay story being held back during the Bush years when those neocon war criminals were destroying the planet. And here's Bari Weiss. I can't. These people, like, disgusting. These people are disgusting. Bari Weiss should be in prison for this shit.
Men say they grew weaker by the day. They claim the prison lights were left on 24 hours a day, making it difficult to sleep, and that food and medicine were often withheld.
Did you have access to clean water?
They never gave us access to clean water. The same water from our baths and toilets was the same water that we had to drink and survive on.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Donald Trump needs to be locked up. Stephen Miller needs to be locked up. Impeach these motherfuckers. 25th Amendment Donald Trump. Do whatever you got to do. You got to get these guys out of there. You got to get them out of there. These are demons. These are demons. These are actual demons. To care this little about people. Why are you even in government? If you care this little about people, why are you even in government? Why are you trying to represent the people when this is how you treat people? By the way, this is right-wing ideology. Don't get it twisted. Right-wing politics always collapses into fascism. And what effectively they want to do is just harm the people that they consider the baddies. That's what it is. So what do? They scapegoat trans people and black people and immigrants and liberals. And their whole politics is, how do we make their lives a living hell? How do we hurt them? How do we torture them? How do we ruin them? How do we take their jobs away from them? That's what right-wing politics is about. Meanwhile, on the left, our idea is, it's not just about, I hate these groups, let's inflict pain upon them. No, our idea is, I want everybody to have a decent shot at a decent life. I want Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and higher wages and ending the wars and ending the corruption and a 4-day work week and Social Security for all and like unions for everybody. It's about how do we improve lives. Their whole thing is like, how do we make life a living hell for those who we consider the other? That's what it is.
If we had serious injuries, when the doctors examined us, they told us that drinking water would heal it.
So they're telling the injured prisoners to drink water, and the water's filthy.
Super sucio.
Super filthy.
So basically what I'm getting from this is they sent in fake doctors to give them fake information and told them to drink fucking toilet water to cure themselves.
The sicker and more injured we were, the better it was for them.
In late March, about 10 days after the first U.S. deportees arrived, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem toured the prison.
Did they speak to anybody, any of the prisoners?
Never. Not with any of the detainees. They never spoke to us. We only saw the cameras.
At some point, Secretary Noem went to another area of the prison to record this video.
First of all, I want to thank El Salvador and their president for their partnership with the United States of America to bring our terrorists here and to incarcerate them and have consequences.
There were men standing behind her, heavily tattooed. Who are those men? Do we know?
We know that those men in her video are not Venezuelans. They are Salvadorians, probably accused of being gang leaders, probably people who have been in jail for many, many years in El Salvador.
Human Rights Watch was able to confirm that with the help of this intrepid team of students at UC Berkeley's Human Rights Center.
All the visible men have either an MS on their chest or a 13 or an ES for El Salvador, and all those gangs are associated with El Salvador.
Not the Venezuelans.
Yeah.
To help verify the deportee stories for Human Rights Watch, the team of students combed through open source data for weeks. Students are trained in advanced techniques and follow strict international standards for obtaining digital evidence that can be used in courts. Analyzing satellite imagery, they mapped the prison and identified the building where the Venezuelans were held. And remember all those influencers who filmed inside CENSORED? One toured an isolation cell.
These are the rooms of solitary confinement
that matched the description of the so-called island where the deportees described being tortured.
And they get absolutely nothing to use to sleep or to rest. Just pure color.
A show and tell of the armory confirmed CENSORED had the weapons the Venezuelans say guards used on them.
What we did see in these videos was the use of the Tibetans on prisoners. Additionally, we also saw the use of painful body positions.
They were showing that off in the videos.
And they do that. It's sort of a practice.
But it was this interview with a prison warden that proved to be most helpful.
The light system is 24 hours a day.
One of the questions that we had was, are the lights on 24/7? He said, yes, they are. So he's talking about how hot it can get in the prison. So there's this sort of pride around the poor conditions and around the suffering.
This country has devolved. Now, Trump and MAGA, they take pride in being barbaric and savage and uncivilized. They take pride in being primitive in their mindset. And to me, that's just humiliating. To me, it's like bragging about having a low IQ. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is. Like, hey, look, we act like fucking Neanderthals. Oh, congratulations. What do you think that makes you a better person? It quite literally, by definition, it makes you a worse person. Like what are you doing? And the fact that they say this stuff out loud, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is like, they don't even bother to try to lie anymore, right? It's like, yeah, no, we are the devil. Yeah, we're Satan. That's what we are. And they act like, yeah, we keep the lights on 24/7. We make them drink toilet water. We assault them. We grape them. Like, what?
Using extreme temperatures or light to disorient inmates is also prohibited under UN standards.
I think one of the things that the work of this team has really shown is that a lot of these stories can be believed. And
Alexa Koenig is the director of Berkeley's Investigations Lab, which trains students to research war crimes and human rights violations.
And it's those little details that I think then, if you can bring that together with the physical evidence, I think you have the strongest possible case for accountability, whether it's a court of public opinion or at some point in a court of law.
The Department of Homeland Security declined our request for an interview and referred all questions about CENSORED to El Salvador. The government there did not respond to our request. In July, after 4 months, the 252 Venezuelan men were finally released from CENSORED and sent back to Caracas in exchange for 10 Americans that had been imprisoned in Venezuela.
Which, by the way, let me just say, and I mean this sincerely, every single one of you that made a big stink about this, pat yourself on the back. You're the reason that they were freed. You know who deserves a tremendous amount of credit? Senator Chris Van Hollen, who went there to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia, refused to leave until they showed him Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The fact that we took global attention and focused it squarely on CENSORED and kept screaming about it. The fact that it was endless pressure, the fact that the media actually covered this and it broke through, the fact that the Democrats actually talked about it, that led to these breakthroughs. If it wasn't for that, they would still be in CENSORED and they would never, ever leave. So public pressure means something. Public pressure matters. Congress still matters, even though the Trump regime tries to act like it doesn't matter at all. They are forcing them to release the Epstein files, and now they're actually scrambling and trying to release the Epstein files, albeit in an illegal way, in a haphazard way, and they're failing. But people within the DOJ and the FBI are going, I don't want to violate the law. I'm going to try to follow through on this. And so it's a huge deal. Those people, like, they were literally saved by public pressure and by, Chris Van Hollen and by all the Democrats talked about it, the media outlets that covered it. They were saved by you not shutting the fuck up about it.
The Trump administration has arranged more deals, some valued at millions of dollars, to offload U.S. deportees to other so-called third countries, nations to which they have no connection. Among them, war-torn South Sudan and Uganda, which have well-documented histories of torturing prisoners.
They're also trying to send people to Libya, where there are open slave markets since we overthrew Gaddafi. They're trying to send people to Eswatini. They're trying to send people to all the people don't speak the language. They don't know anybody there. They're being dumped into a very dangerous situation. They're doing these third-party deportations all the time. Yeah, these people are criminals. They're criminals. The Trump regime are criminals. They need to be arrested. They need to be locked up. We need to make sure that rule of law matters because they have rendered it useless. They really have. And it's only because of your pressure that we got even a minor win on this case where we got these people released. But there you have it. This is the segment that was censored and banned by Bari Weiss and the Ellisons and CBS. Shout out to the people at 60 Minutes who did the real journalism and who revolted when they tried to shut this thing down. But it was censored, it was banned to protect Trump, to protect MAGA from the fact that they are responsible for torture and grape and rounding up innocent people and sending them to a concentration camp with no due process and blowing off court orders in the process of that as well. So I think we know why they hit it. Share this as far and wide as you can. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.